Hello, and welcome to a new episode of From the Honeycomb, a podcast that creates a spark of positive energy. Here we discuss all things architecture and design, to travel, exploring Vastu Shastra with a modern approach, and I connect with other like-minded women to share their story. I am your host, Katerina, and welcome to From the Honeycomb. And welcome to today's episode, which is a halfway through the year check-in on how we are doing with our word of the year. The beginning of the year, I had an episode that came out where I shared with you my word of the year, which is growth, and kind of what I was seeing for that first half of the year, the seeds I was planting, why I chose the word. And at the end of that episode, I mentioned we're going to check in at the, halfway part of the year, which I cannot believe it's June and we are, pretty much at that almost that halfway point of 2023 and so much has happened and I just kind of want to take this episode to fill you in on a few things. The last few weeks have definitely been eventful in my life and things I haven't totally shared on social media. So I have mentioned it in the newsletter, so if you do follow me in the newsletter, you'll kind of know what's been going on behind the scenes outside of work and the podcast, things that I've been working on. And so this episode, I'm going to kind of cover a little life update with me and then kind of reflect on how I'm doing with my word of the year, growth. But before we begin, as we begin every episode, let's take a moment to ground down and think of something that we are grateful for in the present moment. And sometimes I have actually something figured out what I want to say, like as I'm preparing, putting the microphone together, the laptop together, everything. I'm like, okay, I know what I'm going to share for my gratitude portion of the episode. But today I kind of, in the moment, decided to switch it to I'm just very grateful for this like cozy morning right now. I'm actually recording this on a kind of a cooler, cozy Sunday morning. And I'm in my sweatpants. Like once the video airs on Instagram, you'll see I'm in a cozy sweatshirt, and I'm just really grateful for this morning. It's just I slept very long. I slept until 8:30, which, if a lot of you know, I'm more of an early riser. And the last few weeks, I've been really getting up during the week around like 4:45, 5 a.m. And I've had lots to do. So this weekend, I really gave myself the space and the time to sleep in. So yeah, yesterday I slept until 8, which is crazy. I don't usually sleep in that late. And this morning, 8:30. And this rest is just exactly what my body needed. And it was just so nice. So I'm really grateful for this morning, just the coziness. I'm just sitting here with my cup of coffee and just ready to kind of talk about, what it's the last few weeks and kind of how my word of the year, growth, is like the perfect word for this year. I know I chose the word growth because there's so much I want to accomplish this year. But having kind of seen how the past few years have gone where, one year I had the word hustle and the other was surrender, and a lot of my mentality though was like go go go, like expect instant results and I need to get this accomplished and this, especially with my architecture exams. I was constantly studying, constantly waiting for that next exam, pass that exam. Okay, great, on to the next. But this year I knew I really wanted to take time to grow in certain aspects of my life. And so there's these 3 gardens that are very important to me this year. One of them is my career and starting my own company. And so that's a garden that I really focused a lot of my energy at the beginning of this year on. Back in January, actually, I started the incorporation process where I incorporated, and I was fully incorporated architecture firm, Katerina Architecture Inc. I'll provide a link in the show notes for my website if you guys want to check it out. But so I incorporated my own company. That was in February, and that was huge, 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 huge. I announced it in my newsletter that came out in March, and it was just a great feeling. There were a few little events that kind of led up to me fully incorporating so early in the year, because my thought was for that part of the garden, I would plant the seeds a little bit, start, thinking about what's the name going to be and what's my website and this, and maybe incorporate late spring, early summer. But a few conversations with my boss and with Jesse and there was just a number of conversations back in January that really propelled me to move forward with incorporating. And so getting all of that established and put together was really exciting and nerve wracking, of course. But all of that was all those seeds of getting a bank account set up, getting all of the background behind the scenes of what a company needs to be able to stand up. I really focused on in February, March, and by the end of March, really, I was ready to go, ready to start signing on projects. And that's where April kind of came in. I'm like, okay, well, I already have planted seeds of, like I said, establishing, building everything, kind of the administrative side, the business side of the company. And I thought, oh, I'll be getting all sorts of projects and phone calls and referrals. Well, April was definitely a slower month on my business side. I did start, planting a few seeds by getting some referrals, talking to people, calling to people, but nothing was really happening. And having had such a busy February and March with my company and building it, and, every week there was something I was checking off my list to keep, building to build that foundation of the company. And then April, things kind of just slowed down. And then it wasn't until beginning of May that I actually got my first referrals and was actually talking with clients. And depending on when this episode airs, hopefully I will be under contract for one of 3 projects that I'm interviewing with right now. And so that's been really exciting. May kind of picked up speed in that sense. And it picked up speed a little bit more faster when I was actually sat down by my boss at my full-time job. And essentially, we had a conversation about me leaving the company. And back in March, I had had a conversation with him talking about me possibly going part time at the end of the year. Like, here's what I'm seeing. I'm thinking, I've got a few projects ending, but I'll be busy enough to be kept on throughout summer, and then fall. I'll have enough time to have saved up money that I'll be able to go part time and really focus the energy on my company. Well, coming to halfway through May, I'm having a conversation with my boss again about this. And essentially, he is letting me go and giving me 2 weeks' notice that I will come June 1st be part time at the company. And so that was huge news. That was news I was not anticipating. And that week, which is actually this week just occurred when I'm sitting down here recording this, it was a shit show of a week, I will say that. It was because I only got 2 weeks' notice and I requested a month to at least be able to get a lot of things, my ducks in a row. For those of you listening from the United States, we have to have health insurance in California. If you don't have health insurance, even for a month, you get fined during your taxes, and which I did not know. I did find that out this year. So there was a struggle of, because I was going from full time where I had benefits, where I had health care, to, hey, in 2 weeks, you have no health insurance. That took, this past week, I've been on the phone with health insurance for like 5 to 6 hours trying to get health insurance. Thankfully, everything got figured out. I was on top of it. That was my number one priority this week. But it was a lot that happened this week, realizing that even though my boss said I'm going to go part time, the way our company is structured, it just doesn't work the way the projects are, unfortunately. And it's more of a confidential thing. I can't really go into it, but so there really is no part-time option. So it's essentially I was being let go. And this is the first time also I've ever been fired or let go. And so that was a little like, whoa. But, it made sense in a way, the timing of it, because I have finished a few projects that were, getting completed. And then the upcoming projects just, unfortunately, yeah, things just slow down at the company. So it wasn't possible to keep me busy, but it definitely came as a surprise. But what I'm very grateful for is I had planted all those seeds, all of the hard work on getting incorporated, on getting a bank account, on getting contracts put together, on getting a website, on getting business cards, all of these things. The day I was told I was let go, I had all of this foundation ready for my company. I'd already had a contract sent out, proposal for a potential project, and I was working on another one. So I have to say, I'm very proud of the work I've done this whole part of the first of this year, this growth, because I know I wanted to grow my own company. it just sprouted a little quicker the last few weeks, which I love. I mean, it's exciting, it's exhilarating. Like, I'm gonna do a whole episode on my first like few months of entrepreneurship. That'll be coming up because I do want to share the entrepreneur side. There's just so much I can talk about there. But so the entrepreneurship journey too, and just having my own company, like that part of my garden has just really just been flourishing. Like, I am just so happy with how it turned out. And yes, having, being let go, it definitely came as a shock in a way. Like, it was expected, but unexpected. Like, knew it was possibly going to happen. And thankfully, Jesse and I, like a couple weeks before that, there was this feeling I had. And so we kind of talked about, let's look at our finances. If you do lose your job, what does that mean? So we actually had already, like, the day I found out I was being let go after work, we actually went out to celebrate rather than having like a panic attack of, oh my gosh, are we going to be able to pay next month's rent? We had all sorts of things, planned. Unfortunately, I did have to cancel a trip to Boston to see my sister this summer, which I was supposed to buy the flights that week. And so it was just, there was, of course, downsides to it. But overall, it felt really good to have had this foundation built and to have really put the work in the past few months. And I'm just so proud of myself for having laid that out, for letting really just have that been my focus, because it's definitely made this transition period so much more, I wouldn't say seamless in a way, but less of a shit show that it could be. Because I will admit, the last week when, the week when I found out, it was an emotional roller coaster. There was like a sense of relief because I had been struggling at work a lot lately as far as mentally, and just so it all kind of, if it's, it was meant to be, is meant to be. And like I said, I'm just so proud and grateful of how that garden I've been growing, planting the seeds. It's now, late spring, early summer, really, it's early summer. And that part of my garden is just blooming. And like I said, I hope by the time this episode airs, I'll be under contract on more than one project. But that's where this word growth, like, I'm so happy I chose it for this year, because I knew a lot of these things, a lot of setting up my company and the things I wanted to accomplish and things I want to learn. It's going to take time. It's more patience. I have to have more patience with a lot of my goals. I know they're not going to happen right away at the beginning of the year. These goals, I'm going to have little milestones throughout the year as I grow, and as each of these little gardens, which I'll get to the other two, are going to keep growing and, flourishing. And I'm taking the time to plant the seeds, harvest them, and let that garden grow. So I'm just I'm just really happy that I did the work earlier in the year and I took care of that garden, because that was a huge focus of mine. So, I mean, we're halfway through the year. So what do I think, and what am I expecting for my job, for my career, how that garden's going to bloom, and really be able to harvest all of that hard work, coming summer and coming fall is, gosh, I mean, it's going to be an adventure. And I hope I continue to get referrals and meet with clients and even projects. I understand, I'll be sending out proposals for projects and I may not get the job, but I'm looking at every opportunity as a way to grow, as a way to learn. Every time I send out a proposal, like I've already sent out two now, and from the first one to the second one, I've already made changes. I've grown. I'm like, I understand what I need to include. So I know now I'm in a different part of growing. I grew and I learned, I understood the business side of the company. And now I'm growing my personal, like how our invoice is going to look, how our memo is going to look, and I'm building all of that, which is super exciting, because I'm also, doing my own AutoCAD standards, and I'm learning about new software programs that I can possibly use to become more efficient. And so it's a fun part of, I'm just growing more in a way in the business aspect. So that's that garden. So my garden of my company is just going crazy, beautiful. Like, that part of my garden will totally win awards, beautiful awards for like most beautiful plants and everything growing. And then I have my one little garden area, which was for this podcast. And I wanted to, really kind of build more of a community here. And I feel like over the first part of the year, I mean, I have really connected with more people, and especially more women. Obviously, I mentioned that in the intro. I want to connect with other like-minded women, and I've been finding so many more women that I love all of my guests, but like, just, it's been so fun having so many of these women on, and I'm just enjoy sitting, talking, and learning. And so I've been really happy with how this garden has been growing and cultivating. And I have the newsletter that came out in March. So every month I'll have a newsletter that comes out with a little personal message from me. So you'll get kind of an update. So a lot of the entrepreneurship I've been putting into the newsletters, and there's a Vastu Shastra tip of the month, and then there's also like a little behind the scenes photo I share with all the readers, and we've got a book club which is really fun, which was inspired by Julie from the Mindful Potter. And we also have like a little section that kind of gives you an idea of what podcast episodes are going to come up in the next month, so that's been really great. And I've really been growing like the community and the support through like my Instagram and through social media. And I have to say, it's been really nice, especially starting the entrepreneurship journey. And like I said, I'll mention more of this in a separate episode, but being able to reach out for questions to other women in architecture. Bryn Young from Be Young Design, who's also on the podcast earlier this year, she's been someone I've been, connecting with. And I asked her a question and right away got a response. And so having kind of that network, that like networking on social media has been a huge step for me because, I in the past I was kind of a little shy, and like now I go on Insta stories and I talk. And before I used to be very kind of cautious about or shy about like reaching out. I'd be like, oh, why does anybody want to like DM back to me? But I've been having conversations with like so many amazing women on Instagram, and especially when the guests come on, and then we still talk after the episode airs, and like, so there's just been so much that's been really great about the podcast and about From the Honeycomb. And it has been, it's such a, this has been such a fun creative outlet for me. Like, I'm so always excited to sit down with a guest or find someone and like get to know, and then putting together some of the recent episodes about, your guide to hiring an architect. That has really helped me grow and understand like, okay, if I were hiring an architect, what are questions I would be asking? And it's made me really grow and reflect as an architect, thinking, okay, what do I need to let the client know? And so those episodes have been like really fun and have really expanded what I want to share on the podcast. And I know it's been, evolving more. And at the beginning of the year, I still had those Vastu Shastra episodes, and I know I can kind of tell those are dwindling. There's a few I have like ideas I want to do, but just haven't had the time to sit down to do those, because those require more research, and I want to make sure you guys like are getting really good information. So of course there's, I know Vastu Shastra episodes. I have a few up in my, mind that I want to share with you guys. So probably this summer you'll have a few Vastu Shastra episodes. But yeah, it's been, I was on another podcast, Transform Your Life podcast, and they'll be on the podcast. Ashley and Ange will be on the podcast end of this month. So there's just been so much fun, and it's the interaction and the community through From the Honeycomb podcast. I have really, really enjoyed it. And so that's been a part of my garden that, yeah, I know I was planting more seeds and getting so many more guests. I mean, in March and April, I've been recording with so many amazing people, and I don't know, that part of my garden is growing and doing very well. And I mean, I had one month the most amount of downloads. I can't even remember. Like, I'm hitting all those goals, and the following, of course, is going up on Instagram, which for a little bit, I was like obsessed, of course, with like, oh my gosh, I need to get more followers. And now I don't really look at that anymore. I'm just like this, like, I am so happy with anybody who does show up and likes my stuff, and just, yeah, I'm more about having fun creating content, which that's another thing. Like, I feel like I've had more fun being creative and growing in like making content and making fun architecture videos. Like, those, I didn't think that they would actually like, I don't know, not just be popular, but like be fun to make. But it's been so fun. Like my get ready with me for a site visit, like those videos, I've had so much fun with that as well. And again, that's made me grow as a person and not be so as much camera shy, and it's just building that confidence, and growing. So again, there's that word growth. I'm growing in all this year. I really want to take time to grow in so many aspects of my life. And then there's that little garden that's just not doing very well. Oh, wow. Which is the garden of health. My health this year has been rough. Think I've mentioned it. I did mention it in the newsletter. I think it was in the May newsletter about my health, and just really focusing on that part of my garden, because end of last year I wasn't really feeling well. I had also gone to urgent care for the first time last year in 2022, and the stress of the exams really, really got to me. the beginning of this year has not been very, very healthy either. I'll spare you some of the details, but it's just been, yeah, lots of rounds of antibiotics. I got COVID again, but I've been through a lot of antibiotics, and my body's just can't get rid of something. And so that's been really hard and stressful. And I'm a little disappointed where I am with my health already, halfway through the year. I thought I'd be a lot healthier. Although I have to say, I do feel stronger. Like I've been getting on my mat more often. We've been taking walks and hiking with Jesse more. We also kind of had a cold, which probably talked about it on the episodes, a cold winter in California. And so the more I think about it, like this winter, we didn't even really spend time like hiking with Jesse or being out because we had a lot of rain, and it just, I don't know, we just weren't outside as much and active as much. But the last few weeks we've been out more, and it's been good. And so I am feeling stronger. I'm feeling, more better about my body. I've definitely really, I always ate healthy, but we've really honed in on, getting quality meat with Jesse. We get the organic, free range, $7 for a carton of eggs deal, which by the way, that's a whole nother thing. It's just the cost of everything right now is absolutely ridiculous. Like the growth of how much groceries cost is absolutely ridiculous. But that's a tangent for another time to talk about to talk about that, about the economy and how that's been not growing, but total side blank tangent. Let's get back to what we were talking about, or what I was talking about. No, I also think about that is I say we a lot on the podcast. And when I think about it, I'm like, I do say like, oh, and we talk about it, even though it's just like me sometimes talking. And I kind of reflected on that, and I was like, why do I say that? And I think, look at us as as you and I, because my voice is in your ears right now, or you're listening to me when you're driving in the car or while you're doing laundry, I don't know, but somehow I'm either in your ears or on the loudspeaker. And so I kind of think of this as a we. It's like you and I are having our little discussion or conversation. So when I say, we discuss, or I don't know, I feel like it's a team effort here, or yeah. I just always want to include you because I feel like whoever you are listening right now, like, yeah, we're together. You're not alone. So you've got me. Okay, so that was a complete tangent. Let's go back. So the garden. Oh, yeah, so my last garden. So my garden of health. Yeah, just that's a garden that just isn't doing very well. And so I'm really taking the time to focus on my health, especially this month, and I think going into summer, I will definitely be focusing on it and de-stressing. I think by not also working at my full-time job, I think that is immensely going to help me with my health, because the amount of stress that has actually been causing has been it's just been too much. And it's actually interesting. I was actually journaling about it. Because we had the new moon at the like middle of May, and I was journaling, and actually let me pull that out. There was something I was journaling. I had a question, a journal prompt actually from there's a girl I follow on Instagram. I got to have her on the podcast. I think her Instagram handle is like Another Day Greener or something like that. But she had a good journal prompt for the full moon, and it actually kind of works with this episode. So I'm going to read the question. How can I create a solid foundation for growth, just like a seed needs nourishment to flourish? And I was like, that's a great question. Like, how can I create a solid foundation for growth? Because I was thinking about it. I'm like, okay, I'm halfway through the year. My word of the year is growth. Have I built the foundation well enough to keep growing in all the aspects that I want? And how can I create that solid foundation? So I really thought about it. I was like, okay, what do I need to have a solid foundation to keep growing? And, I thought about plants, and they need the sun, they need water to be nourished and to flourish. And I thought, okay, well, for me, that means I need to rest, and I need to make sure I don't burn out, and I need to make sure I don't have any more panic attacks and anxiety attacks, because it's definitely been a lot of those related to my current job. And so that was another thing, is I think the universe really pushed me into, which I have a sentence about that too. I'm going to quote that too, because I don't want to misquote myself. Sometimes the universe pushes us forward, even if we feel doubtful of ourselves, because it knows we can handle so much more than we allow ourselves to believe. And so that's kind of what I came up with when I was reflecting the other day about just this time, and we're halfway almost through the year. And this was a huge change that occurred this past week for me. And so yeah, sometimes, the universe just it pushes us forward. And I think the timing of me being let go and being able to really focus my energy on my company is just it was meant to be. It was meant to be. It was that kind of that push, that shove. So yeah, but so back to the foundation of growth and what I need to be able to nourish and to flourish myself is making sure I don't burn out, making sure I give myself the time and the rest. And I think, over the last few weeks, I have been kind of working two jobs with putting together the contracts and stuff for my company and still going to my full time job. And it definitely got exhausting. I think I definitely underestimated how much time I would need and how much time and energy I would need to be able to focus on making sure that, my company was getting the attention it needed to get the proposals out, to get the contracts out, to set up meetings. And it was starting to bleed into that full-time job. So the more I think about it, it's actually better than if I were to be trying to do both. So yeah, so that's kind of the update is I'm full blown once this episode airs, I am full blown entrepreneur working at my own company, which is I'm still having kind of like a pinch me moment about that. Like I said, I'm going to do a whole episode about the entrepreneurship and I'm going to kind of do that. Yeah, that'll be coming up next in the next few weeks because I want to share what I've kind of learned. And I know it's only like the first few months in, but I think it'll be a good episode if anybody's interested in going down the route of entrepreneurship, kind of how those first few months are. And I want to record it while it's still fresh in my mind because I know over the next few months more stuff is going to happen. So I'll probably be doing like a little entrepreneurship like check-in series with you guys so you guys know how that whole thing is going. But yeah, so yeah, this is yeah, my word of the year is growth. And I think I've been growing. I've been growing a lot and I'm glad I spent the part of the year rather than trying to expect to get results instantly. I took the time to plant those seeds and make sure to water them because now I'm seeing that abundance, that growth come in when I need it, especially, given the fact that my work life has totally changed. And so, yeah, when this episode comes out, I will be a full entrepreneur, full businesswoman working on in my own company. And I'm very excited. I told Jesse, I said, I think I'm going to really like my new boss. Thought that was really funny. So, spin little jokes like that. But this is an exciting time. I'm super excited. I'll keep you guys more in the loop. I just wanted to share this episode because checking in with the word of the year, growth, and I want you to take the time, after this episode to check in with your word of the year and how's it going? I don't know if you want to journal or, if you go for a walk and think about it, but we are halfway through 2023 and it's kind of it was a lot this first part of the year. A lot happened. I'm really proud of where I am, and I hope you are proud of where you are too. And if you're not hitting all of those goals, I know, we are that there's that halfway point. If you're not hitting all of your goals yet, don't worry. Sometimes we can't expect instant results. Things do need to be planted as little seeds and eventually, they'll grow roots and then they'll, peek out of the earth and out of the dirt and start to grow and then you'll be able to harvest those plants later. Sometimes it just takes patience, which as the world's most impatient person, do as I say, not as I do, because I am so impatient. But I hope you guys are proud of yourselves wherever you are with your goals this halfway through the year because there's a lot of stuff happening out there. And so the fact that we can also focus on our goals and work towards things is kind of shut that outside noise out is very, very important because we need to focus on ourselves and make sure we continue to grow. And that's it for today's episode. This was really fun. I'm really glad I got to just sit down and kind of talk about growth and just how this last few months have been and share with you kind of my update on my entrepreneurship journey slash career slash employment. But it's an exciting time. I'm very proud of the work I did at the beginning of this year and the seeds I planted because they're allowing me to grow and to expand. And both in work and then on the podcast. We've got more amazing guests coming on that I think you guys will really like, will really resonate. We're going to have our first male guest that's not Jesse on the podcast actually next week. So tune into that. That's also, oh my gosh, a really exciting episode. Kind of fangirled on that one. That was definitely be sure to tune into that one next week. And yeah, I hope you all have a great rest of the end of spring, and summer's around the corner. We've got summer solstice coming up, and it's going to be that fun summer energy, just that buzzing energy, and that sun is going to really shine on all our gardens, and we're going to keep growing this year. And then I think the next time we'll catch up on the word of the year is in December, but let's not get ahead of ourselves. It's only June, so we're enjoying that end of summer, that blooming time after winter. So, yeah. Well, if you like this episode, please give it a heart or thumbs up and click the follow button so you can stay up to date on the latest episodes. You can, of course, follow me on Instagram at From the Honeycomb Podcast. And if you'd like to support the podcast newsletter, you can support me through the Patreon link, which I'll provide in the show notes. It's almost like buying me a cup of coffee. I really, really appreciate your support through the newsletter, through the podcast, through Instagram. You guys really make it happen every week. And subscribe to my monthly newsletter. Like I mentioned in the podcast episode, it comes out once a month. I'll share a personal message with you there. There's also intellectual, like architecture articles I like to share, the Vastu Shastra tip, book club, and that comes out the 7th of every month. So be sure to subscribe because that's a fun little newsletter. I don't want to spam you guys. And thank you so much, and see you next Friday.